Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Salt&Light podcast, and we're here to have a good time and talk about Jesus. I'm here with Jake and Kurt, and Kurt, you had something that you wanted to bring up right off the bat about.
Yeah.
This just said a lament.
This is why we need Jesus. The disappointments we go through in life, and so I'm trying to work through this. So once a week, I like to stop at the Cumberland Farms and get a frozen mocha thing that they have there.
If you're an avid listener of the podcast, then you could have filled that sentence in. Oh, maybe once or twice.
Okay. So it's okay. So for the last 5 times I've tried to stop there, I've probably only had one. No, I haven't had any success.
For 5 times?
5 times because the machine hasn't been working. But now the regular one to the left, it works, but it tastes bad.
Yeah, it's like vanilla.
I don't want it. No, it's like a regular coffee thing or something.
Oh.
I don't drink coffee.
Yeah.
And so it really.
But you drink the iced mocha.
Oh yeah.
Does this have caffeine in it?
Yes.
Okay.
But I only do it once a week, and I do it only on early, so don't stay up. And so for a long time, the gal at the counter would say, "Do you have the rewards program or whatever it is?" I said, "Well, no." She said, "You can get these for $1 each if you do that." I said, "Oh, really?" So I went ahead and dove into that. Figured that out online. Got my rewards program. So I go in yesterday.
What's the catch?
They're data mining him now.
I go in yesterday, and the mocha machine's down again.
Oh.
And man.
Do you not know I'm a rewards member here? Did you say that?
Well, so this gets to today. So I get this horrible tasting thing yesterday, and I only got a few ounces out of it. It wasn't good. But they gave it to me for free when I plugged my rewards thing in.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So that's good. But I was still disappointed. I was willing to pay the $1.
So to be a rewards member, was it just like an email? And that's all you
just go online and put in your phone number and email or something like that. Yeah. So then today I go in, and guess what? It looks like it's going in circles and everything.
Yeah.
But this time, so yesterday nothing came out when you pressed the thing.
Yeah.
Today it just poured out.
Oh no!
Like a guy who. Well,
like Niagara Falls,
but I couldn't have it, so I had to go get a Dr. Pepper. And so I'm up at the counter, and I plug in my thing. I don't think I got anything off my Dr. Pepper, and because I didn't sleep well, so I wanted to get a little jolt. And so I asked her. I said, "What's going on with your mocha thing?"
Yeah.
And she said, "I know. It's always a problem. The one next to it never has a problem. Maybe we should swap." I said, "Maybe."
Yes.
Put the mocha in the other thing.
Oh, I would love for you, Kurt, to bring me to a Cumberland Farm so I can experience the goodness of mocha iced coffee.
Overall, if I took a half a year, I'm going to say I had a 60% success rate and that machine working for me.
Wow.
And I kind of look forward to doing it because I don't.
Have you tested out different places?
Well, other than that one, you can go to the one on the corner of 114 and Payne Road. But that's really busy and it's kind of a hassle. I like my 22 one.
Yeah, it's right
there. So
there.
maybe because I complained today, it's going to be better. But all this to say that Jesus is really our only hope. It's not in my mocha frozen thing.
Everything else will disappoint.
Yeah. But it was only going to be $1.
Do you think we should organize maybe a little protest outside,
or a little GoFundMe?
We could do that. I'd pay some protesters.
Yep.
We could put them out there.
Sure, it wouldn't be too hard.
Yeah,
it'd probably be efficient.
How many times would you go with no success in a row before you called it?
I'm dealing with that. So
are you on the tipping point?
There's a couple of times that I almost kind of have called it.
Yeah.
So I like the anticipation that I'm going to get it.
So now it's become a game.
Yeah, it's like a slot machine. I'm hearing. Like this is like a weird addiction. This is like a gambling addiction.
No, it's a different type of addiction.
What's funny is this is only once a week I do this. So
well, if it was always there whenever you wanted it, it wouldn't, like the thrill of having it wouldn't be as high. It
was only $1 now because I did that. So then I wanted to harness my new thing that I took the trouble to go through.
Yeah.
I got, free. It was horrible yesterday, and then today it didn't work at all. But I finally voiced my displeasure.
I'm so sorry, Kurt. That is just unfair.
Yeah. So I don't want to be one of those whiners in life, but this ended up kind of doing it. So that brings us back
if you guys enjoy the frozen it frozen mocha coffees at Cumberland Farms. Make sure you hit the like button and, and leave a comment on YouTube. Because we're back on video, right, Isaac?
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry about last week. We weren't on video last week. Let me ask
this one. So I want to explain myself in our last WebEx that I sent out.
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys read that?
I did.
Oh, yeah. I probably just forgot, though.
So
glanced over it.
So, but it struck me. I was listening to a Kyle Strobel, and I think he was quoting C.S. Lewis. So I've just ordered the book Four Loves by C.S. Lewis because I think it was in there.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
And he was, all he said was these two words, and I had to go and say, well, I like the idea of these two words. So he talked about, I don't even know if this was the context they had, but passion versus affection. And so I started thinking about the different times that I may veer away from the affection of Jesus toward just wanting the buzz of his presence. And I thought, well, it doesn't happen all the time that way, but I think it does happen. I think it can be sort of prevalent in the ministry industrial complex as well, especially with worship and such, that it's the emotion, the crescendo, the lights, the all that kind of thing that makes us feel good. But are we assigning our thoughts and our heart to an affection toward Jesus during that time? Or are we just sort of enjoying the moment? Does that make sense? And so I started looking at some. Adam Guyon, I think, does a good job of affection when I'm reading her.
Yeah.
But it was some. Here's what it was. It was something that God was using to just wake me up to say, this is where everything should go. It should go toward that relationship, that intimacy that we have, and be careful to not go for any other motive. Any thoughts on that? Does that make sense? So I said. So then I tried to make it clear to Vicky on that love rather than buzz.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just looking it up. The Four Loves. So there's storge, which is affection. Philia, which is friendship.
Yeah.
Like Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. Eros, romantic love, and agape, which is the self-giving, sacrificial love.
So on the thing I sent out on the WebEx, by the way, which is just a method of communication like a WhatsApp or a text.
Yeah, right.
For those who don't know. So I gave two definitions. So I'm going off of those two definitions that I have for passion versus affection. And it seemed to me on that affection is something towards somebody. Passion could just be because of anything that gives us that sort of fizz.
Yeah. It makes me think of the prayer, the type of prayer called adoration, which is, I think it goes all the way back to like some of the early church fathers. It was kind of like meditating, but it's just simply meditating on God's love for you and your love for God, and just focusing your mind on that and just dwelling there in that space. And I think that that's just a practice that I know when I do that is like profoundly beneficial to me. And I don't do it necessarily for the benefits, but I'm just like, wow, why don't I just dwell on God's love for me more and my love for him? And it gets me all in that lathered up. But I guess that's probably not what you're talking about, because you're saying not buzz.
I want to go off on what you said, though, because this kind of goes into it. I think it's okay that you do it just for your benefit. If I look at John Piper's Christian hedonism, I look at Christianity as a totally selfish endeavor.
Sure.
That I do it for me, but in that process, it's him that I'm doing it for. But, well, I guess I could, if I should do it even if there was nothing in it for me, right? 'Cause he's God, but I can't help but get benefits out of it. So I look forward to that. Kind of like I might not get my mocha frozen, but I'm still going to go.
I'm still going to go one way or another for the love of it.
Yes.
So what you just said is where I was going to go with the conversation a little bit. Because if, like, I've even been praying this a little bit, whether I can't remember if it was on Sunday or on Thursday or whatever, but I keep, my brain keeps circling this idea of like not being able to cultivate or like not being able to manufacture love for anyone or anything, even God, on our own. So it's like if there was nothing in it for you, or you didn't experience, or nothing happened in you, would you be able to love God? And I don't know what the answer. We love God because as we experience, and that's what he keeps showing me is experience me, be in my presence, and I am enough to make you love me. Like I am enough that my heart will grow to love him. So it's not like I can like make myself love God and then do the things out of love. Cause that's, I think, the way that it's taught a lot of times in church, or at least like, I feel like that's the way it was taught to me oftentimes is like, come to church because you love God, pray because you love God, worship because you love God. And I'm like, man, if I'm in a season, or if I'm in a place where I don't actively feel like I love God, why would I do any of those things? It'd be very hard to be motivated to like be disciplined if you didn't have love. Yeah. But it's more like have faith in God, and so do those things, and then you'll experience him, and then it'll be enough, and you'll grow to love him.
Right. So around that, Jesus says, my joy will be in you and your joy will be complete. So there's something there. So we were just on Monday morning at our staff meeting, we were looking at a Charles Spurgeon deal that was up there, and thinking. So I was looking a little bit at this as I was looking at the affection versus passion deal, and people like Spurgeon and people like Mother Teresa, they have these dark nights of the soul. Yep. And we can all have our ups and downs, but what I find, right? So Jesus says, in this world you'll have trouble, but take heart, I've overcome the world. In me you'll have peace. I don't see a time where so even what's his name in Fox's Book of Martyrs, the guy who was burned at the stake and singing hymns.
Polycarp, maybe?
Polycarp, yeah. I can't think of a much worse situation than that.
Yeah, but maybe Bartholomew, he was skinned alive.
Skinned alive, yeah.
That's pretty... I think I would take burnt.
I don't know.
I don't know though. Sorry, this is a very explicit conversation.
Well, I think the point, and those are just brief moments, sort of, that happens over time. But so it'll be interesting to hear what we say, because you're just talking about this, Jake. That I don't think his intention is for us ever to be joyless, and so I don't know, other than if you have like a clinical depression thing where your chemistry is mixed up a bit,
or it's just January in Maine and there's no sun to be found. It's
negative 6 outside. Which is kind of a chemistry thing, right?
Yeah.
With the
exactly.
seasonal disorder piece. But so it's just kind of scary to say because it can come back and bite you, right? But I don't think we need to have that sort of despair ever. Yeah. And so to your point as well, sometimes we just begin the action of loving and then it follows because we got to get out of our heads.
Yep.
To me, when I hear someone talk about the dark night of the soul, I don't think of it as much as them losing their faith, which maybe that is how it's described.
I don't think it is. No, you're right.
But kind of when I think of it for myself, it's like someone who's going through like the worst parts of life where just nothing's going their way. Because like what comes to my mind immediately when I hear that is Gethsemane for Jesus, and he's just kind of preparing himself for the cross, and he's sweating blood, and he's crying, and he's like, anguish. Lord, take this from me if it's your will, but not my will, but yours be done. And it's kind of this wrestling match I think that many of us have to face of when all of the pleasures and the goodness of life seems stripped from you, are you still going to remain faithful to God because he is good, and that's where our eternal hope and our anchor resides, is in him? Or are we going to just kind of like be like Job's wife and be like, okay, I guess curse God and die, because I think there's just so many of us who can go through such hardships here in life that it can make us want to maybe blame God for them. But Scripture time and time warns us against that perspective of going, you will have lots of hard times in life, and many of them will actually be outside of your control. They'll feel like storms that you have no control over, but can you declare the goodness of God even in those moments? And I think that's like truest faith. And I'd argue like that's kind of a big point of the book of Job, especially too.
And I guess I'm thinking on the, I don't know.
And I'm not trying to say that that's
let's
a counterpoint to what you're saying.
Argue. No,
yeah, let's argue.
That is it. St. John of the Cross that came up with the Dark Night of the Soul. Someone back
I don't know.
there, sort of did that.
I know someone who knows.
I'm not. I'm not. Yeah, I think I'm looking at people who almost sort of give up because of that time and the difficulty. So I was thinking about. I don't know if I talked about this at the Minmo or not. I think I did at because on Sunday.
The little sermon before the sermon.
My little sermon before sermon.
The teaser.
So when Peter, Jesus says to Peter, "Hey, Peter, Simon, Satan has asked to sift you all like wheat," and then he says, "But I have prayed for you, and I've prayed that your faith will not fail." And then he says, so this is what I like. He says, and when you turn back, encourage your brothers. So Jesus prayed for his faith. If Jesus prays for something, it's going to happen, says me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so Peter did deny him 3 times. And so his faith didn't fail, but he's just sinned. He still had faith.
Right.
And so then the encouragement is when you turn back, which we see Acts chapter 2, encourage your brothers. Because even before that, he was just going to diss everything and go fishing, right? Before, and the end of John. And I think that's there. So you're right. I don't know how to interpret how somebody uses Dark Night of the Soul.
Yeah.
But some of them, it seems like they've been bummed out for like
decades,
like years.
Yeah. Right.
And I don't know what to do with that. But I like how even in that we're to encourage one another.
So you were actually right, Kurt. Just to stroke your ego a little bit there. It was the Dark Night of the Soul comes from the 16th century Spanish mystic and poet John of the Cross. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is what my AI pocket friend says. By dark night, he meant a God-initiated process where a person is stripped of emotional consolation, spiritual certainty, and even clear understanding, not because God has left, but because God is drawing the person beyond shallow forms of faith.
Yeah. So this is the question then, using that.
Yeah.
Can we, in our worst circumstances over time, maintain that emotional joy? Is joy an emotion? I think so. Joy.
I think it comes out as an emotion.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because I think it's where our emotions and the supernatural collide as well, because it comes from the Holy Spirit, truest forms of joy, right?
So
it's
when I see people experience this most around me, it's usually because of a loss of somebody close.
Sure.
And then sometimes that results in resentment toward God, going to anger.
But I think even those two can be a little different. I think mourning is not the same as the Dark Night of the Soul.
Absolutely.
I think you can mourn and then
mourn and wail. We're told,
and then
you
you move forward. I think I would like equate Dark Night of the Soul being like a season where you just can't come out of. It's like a state of being. Yeah. Where you've lost that joy and expectation.
Without naming names, have you known of anybody that you would assign Dark Night of the Soul to? So these can't be people that
I've read
walk
about,
away, because you know some people that have just walked away.
Yeah, I know lots of people have walked away.
But I think this is somebody who loses the emotional contact, so they're just in a place of misery because they still think that there's supposed to be something. And if there is somebody that comes to mind, what do you do to help
name
reel
them
in?
Give us their email, their mailing address, their social security.
I'm trying to think without like sitting here in silence for the next 10 minutes. No one comes to mind. That would be a bad podcast. No one comes to mind immediately, but would you say it would be like just a grace of God to pull you out, like to draw you out of it? Like, I would say I still don't have full clarity. Yeah. I'll use myself as an example here. So I don't have full clarity even to this day on, I don't know that I would go as far to say that I was not saved, but I've shared before on the podcast that growing up is like in the church as a teenager, I would have thought I had faith based on what I knew at the time. I would have said I had a relationship with Jesus, but there was like a shallowness to it. There was a misunderstanding to it. There was riddled with doubt, like just for like years and years and years. Very lukewarm living through college. Not that I ever turned away, but there's certainly like long seasons of like almost equal doubt to faith ratio. Like it felt very ambiguous through that. And then I even feel like when we started getting like more convicted and like all in, I'll just use that term, as Jordan and I like got married and early on of like being in the church, I'd even say back then, I think my faith began to grow, but there was a huge piece of me that still was very much, it was a relationship with church. And it's almost like I didn't know what I didn't know. So I don't want to like look back and say it was all just nothing, but there was certainly something missing. And I remember, maybe, I don't know when it was, probably like 5 years ago or something. I remember praying. I shared this story before, so if people have heard it, sorry for repeating, but I prayed just this really heartfelt prayer, like, because I'd not had like this like black and white transformation of like not knowing Jesus and then knowing Jesus, and it felt like a before and after. It felt like it was like this slow growth. I just said like, Jesus, like I don't know. I want to know that I know you, and I don't know what it's like to like be a Christian for the first time. And I said, and it leaves me with like questions. I don't know. And he really met me in like a really powerful way. I was driving and I just got like full on overwhelmed by the Holy Spirit, like just started like super emotional, felt incredibly loved, felt incredible faith, like doubt was like removed in that moment almost completely. And I felt like he told me, you wanted to know what it feels like you belong to me, and this is what it feels like. And I just was like crying and crying, and it felt so incredible. And it was like a mountaintop moment, or what we would call that.
So it's like timing is taken out of your hands.
Yeah.
But he still came through for you.
Yeah, and it was like, would I look back and say before that, I was a Christian, and then I had a dark night of the soul where I felt like distanced from him, because there were certainly seasons of years in between where I'm like, I did my own thing, not really thinking about him very much, and then kind of came back. But did I come back to him? Did I come back to the church? I don't know, but certainly like moving forward from there, the intimacy and the abiding is way different than it ever was. So I don't know if it was a before and after.
No, that's interesting. So let me have a description similarly. I'll call it the dim minute of the soul.
Yeah.
And then this just the other night, because I'm fascinated by how it happens. So I'm out 3 nights ago, and I'm just praying, and this is, it fascinates me when it happens. So I'm chatting with him, and it feels like I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling his presence necessarily. So I'm walking down Sanborn Street in Gorham, and then I turn the corner, take a left, and then I'm walking on Shaw's Mill Road. And about 40 feet later, all of a sudden, I just feel his presence in the conversation. And I say to him, what is that? I can't flip a switch to make that happen, but here you are. And I didn't feel you over on Sanborn Street. What takes place with that? Very micro thing to what you're saying. How he does that, and there's a perseverance piece to it. There's a waiting piece of it. All of that we have to do. And I think it's funny because until you have one or two of those encouragements, it's harder to wait because you don't know what you're waiting for, really. Absolutely. But if you have it, you start to begin to have an expectation for it. So then when I'm walking out in the street and I'm saying, hey, it's been like 50 yards, what's going on?
Yeah.
Here I am. But he still does it in his own timing. And that's I think that's why the scripture is replete with wait on the Lord. You see it all over the place.
Yeah.
Because he needs us to do that because we're not he is not at our beck and call.
Exactly. Yeah. When I look at the dark night of the soul, something that just came to my mind while you're talking to Jake is I was thinking through moments in my life where I felt like I was at a low in my own faith and where I was just struggling with God or feeling that kind of depressive feeling or an absence of him. And most of the time when I could think of those moments, it was because usually there was like some kind of sin in my life that I knew was there and I was suppressing it and I didn't want to acknowledge it. Or God wanted to reveal like some serious pride or a sin that I just wasn't even aware of. And he was like, I want to spotlight this for you because it's getting in the way of our intimacy together. I think it's a lot more rare, to be honest, when you hear of somebody who is like straight up living a really righteous life, like they're pursuing God wholeheartedly and they're still going through that like dark night of the soul. Yeah. And I think if that's happening, it's like completely more for the sake of God just strengthening their roots and building their faith in him. So that like kind of what the analogy that came to my mind was like, if you're a soldier and you swear an oath to defend your country and you're like off at war and you're fighting the enemy or whatever, and you're an awesome soldier and like things are going really well, it's you maybe feel good about yourself. You're like, I'm feeling good. I have all of the supplies I need. I'm well fed. I'm well slept. But then I'm guessing like in certain battles, I think of like that guy that got stuck in the Afghanistan hills and the helicopter got shot down. The lone Navy SEAL. Yeah. What was that called
Lone
again?
Survivor.
Lone Survivor. Yeah. Mark Wahlberg played him. But when you're all beat up and you're wounded, it's like, and you want to just quit and you want to just give up. Like, are you still going to uphold that oath when like everything probably in your emotions in your flesh just says like, maybe just lay down and die, or maybe just like turn yourself in or whatever it might be. You give up, just side with the enemy or whatever it might be. And I think it's those moments where you're like, okay, am I really for this? Is this what I truly believe? And, I think there's something akin to that going on maybe when we're not feeling it or we're feeling tempted or whatever is going on inside of us. We're feeling that spiritual warfare. And it's not because you can put your finger on anything that you've necessarily done. It's more so God just going, you're human. Can you depend on me even now? And still, am I worthy of your affection and glory, even in this place where you're not feeling it at all? And that's where faith is kind of forged, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think what you shared, Jesus's words to Peter, are even more important than like we ever would have given it credit. That it's not a matter of if your faith fails or if you're discouraged or you turn away. I think because oftentimes if we have this moment of like distress, we have moments of like sadness or grieving or doubt or lack of faith, the enemy wins twice because we have that moment and then we immediately couple it with shame or guilt about how we would lose faith or lose hope. And so then we'll like become infatuated with it. And I think that's what I see in a lot of modern authors or like pastors that talk about the dark night of the soul. I'm like, you're almost embracing it as like part of your identity, that like this is your shtick or whatever. Yeah. And that it rubs me the wrong
almost
way.
Almost like a deconstructionist type of person.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think like of like John Mark Comer or something like that. It's almost like you're elevating it as either this hyper spiritual experience, like you're talking about yourself, like you're Job, or like you, or you're elevating trials over, like there was a big season of like the brokenness and messiness of Christianity. Like the pendulum swung from like culturally, like the Billy Graham days, where like being a faithful, righteous Christian was celebrated. And then in like when I was probably a teenager and then probably into my mid 20s or whatever, there was this like, and there's still some of it, like there was like the authenticity and vulnerability swing, where now it's like, well, we don't need to pretend we're all got it together. We're broken people and we're messy, which is all true. And Jesus meets us there. But then all of a sudden, culturally in Christianity, we started to like elevate that as like a badge of honor. Like, oh, share your brokenness. And what happens is then we fall in love with that being our identity, and we're not ready.
Right.
Realizing that Jesus doesn't want us to stay there. He wants us to pull us out of that because he loves us. And so I think the words that Jesus gave to Peter should tell us everything we need to know about, if you have moments, like say tomorrow you sin, you can almost take that as the like antidote. Like, okay, you sin, and as you turn back, strengthen your brothers. Like, and it should just be an automatic thing. Like that okay, when we struggle, when we have doubts, when we sin, it's like, allow that to be what it is and move right back to him, and not linger there, and not give it more weight than it's worth, or let it become part of our identity, or all those things. All those things really just keep pulling us from Jesus. And we see a lot of that, a lot of people just dwell in their brokenness, dwell in their sin. And they're just like, it would be so hard for them to be pulled out of it if they don't just move towards.
I wonder how much we're involved in sin where we haven't done the Psalm 139 thing. God revealed this to me, or when we look in his word in Hebrews 4, that everything will be laid bare. And so when you were chatting about, is there sin doing that? I wonder how much of so in James 3, it talks about demonic wisdom, and it says it's selfish ambition and jealousy, which are things that creep in on you and you don't. It's you're not robbing banks, you're not fornicating, you're not adulterizing, all these things.
Very internal things that probably only you would know if you're dealing with them.
And especially people of prominence, like we mentioned, Mother Teresa or Spurgeon. And we've all experienced the intoxication that could take you over by just being in a place where everybody's listening to you, even for a few minutes. And so you wonder, and it's interesting how it refers to those two as demonic, and it makes so much sense. So when things are demonic like that, and there's someone who's kind of speaking into your ear, this accuser type of thing.
Right.
I think it's harder to recognize that you're doing it. So then you get into it, and you don't see your way out.
Yeah.
And that's where the opposing part of that is the humility. So that's why in James 4 it goes into, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. Therefore, humble yourself before the Lord and he will lift you up.
Yeah.
And that's where we always have to be. And and to have the barometer to say, when I'm in that place, to say, no, something's wrong. It shouldn't be like this.
Right.
And then you go to him and say, what can we do? And then we allow his timing to take place. And a lot of it might be something that we're just unwilling to let go of. But he'll show it to us.
Right. It's interesting to me, too, when I hear of jealousy and selfish ambition, like both of those things really seem to be like the soil of striving in a lot of ways, where it's like, why would we strive in our own flesh? And you can even, as we know, like you can be in church ministry, you can lead a small group, you can preach a sermon or pray for people and still be coming from a place of striving and selfish ambition and jealousy. And you can be doing it because like you want status, you want to be seen, you want people to recognize how spiritual you are, all of these different things. And so it's so deceptive, and it's so it's such a corrosive thing, because like really like other people can sometimes pick up on it because usually the fruits start to show when you're living out of that place. But really, like, that's why it's so important that we are constantly checking our own hearts before the Lord and asking him to examine us, because just like a little weed, it will just kind of grow right up, and and you might not even recognize it, especially if you're not giving yourself time to get in the presence of God and really like allow him to examine your heart. Because if you're just like getting up and just going after your day and you're not spending time with Jesus, like there's no reason why you would really ever recognize that those things were happening in your life. No. And kind of with the dark night of the soul, like I think a lot of us as Christians, we hit spiritual lows because I think unless the analogy that came to my mind is like someone who's like an athlete or someone who's in the gym, you have to be like constantly training your body and like giving it micro doses of intentional suffering and pain in order to perform in the way that you want to perform. And if you don't, then life kind of comes and it kind of smacks you in one way or another usually. And all of a sudden you wake up and you got back pain, or you're like running up the stairs and you're huffing and puffing and you're like, oh, where'd my cardio go, or whatever it might be. And I think in a similar sense in our faith, if we're not intentional in our relationship with Jesus and pursuing him, all of a sudden we just get smacked by the enemy. But it's tough because it's more of a slow boil oftentimes, because Satan doesn't just want to just like come at you face on and just be like, here I am, I'm going to attack you spiritually today. You know, he wants to just slowly chip away at your armor and make you think everything's fine until, you get a death by 1,000 paper cuts or whatever.
Yeah. And I think that's the reality more than we know is, we'd love it for it to be really clear where it's a black or white thing. Like, oh, we're either doing it for the right motives or there's selfish ambition there. But the reality is like, that's not how it works. We're complicated, and like I think emotions and motives can be mixed, where I think you can at the same time love God and have selfish ambition and motives. But it's almost like a barometer, like a bandwidth chain, like there's a spectrum, I guess that's the word. And so I think as you do abide and spend time with, it's like his cup fills you more and more with clean water, and the dirty water gets more and more poured out. And so if you were to stop and stop abiding with him, then it's going to continuously fill with dirty water, and it's going to become more and more that than it is clean. And we think we can like hover in this neutral place, right? But it's almost like it doesn't work like that. If you like try to stay in a neutral place, you're moving one direction or the other. And if you're not abiding and pursuing God, our flesh is the one moving us in that direction.
Right.
There's an inverse proportion to joy and selfish ambition and jealousy. That the one goes away. Is you can still love God,
right?
But you don't realize with those. This brings up a thought on the ministry industrial complex, that as much as we might not want to admit it, it's very performance oriented. Especially as the church gets large. Well, no, I wouldn't even say necessarily as that, because in a smaller church you have fewer people that are running it, so you kind of have that. But we have measuring systems as to how effective we are, and so whether it's subconsciously or not, we're looking at those to see how we've done, and it might be some of it on the customer service end. How are we pleasing people? What's the feedback we're getting? How many people are here? How much money is coming in? All of these things, even though we'll say that's not important, they're all around us. And so it has to be a proactive, objective battle against letting that creep into your barometer there.
Yeah, there's that like sensitivity. Like you said, the Psalm 103, like, search me, make me aware of it, that diligence to ask God to reveal it to us, because I think there comes a point, like, we are aware it's like we have bad spiritual eyesight. So we can see big things. Like if you were cheating on your wife, like even if you're not super abiding in the whole insensitive to the Holy Spirit, you would know that that's wrong. Yeah. And so you're aware of that. And then our eyesight's a little bit better than that, where we can start to like notice big chunks, big things that need to go in our life. So it's like, well, I'm looking at things I shouldn't online, or, I'm like being greedy and stealing from the other people in my company or whatever. Those little, like, and then it gets a little more granular. But at a certain point, I think apart from the Holy Spirit, we just don't have the spiritual eyes to see it. And so you get to a place where you've kind of removed all of the big obvious things, but it takes asking the Holy Spirit, hey, like, make me aware of what you're aware of. And then that's like the obedience piece to go after that. And that's, I think, really where like the sweetness of his restoration begins. I think before that, you're almost just like working on not being a slave anymore. You're just working on freedom, like getting freed of those things. And then once like you're getting to where you have to be actively sensitive to him revealing the things in your life that need to go, then there's like, that's where you're really on a journey of him changing you in a really cool way.
Mm-hmm. It seems like, just looking at some things I've come across lately, whenever we insert the word I into something that is being accomplished, that should be a bell for us that, this is a problem. And then just thinking, we've talked about this before, but in the deliverance end of things, you can't walk out of that with an I, and you realize the only way I can be effective in this ministry is to be dependent.
Right.
Yeah. Because what from what you've seen and heard, you say, oh man, I got nothing for this.
Something that just on that came to my mind is with hearing people who don't necessarily have a Christian framework talking about the dark night of the soul. Sometimes you hear people on like podcasts or whatever say, talk about their story of their like ego death. Have you ever heard someone use that that term before, ego death? And they're like, kind of like, well, I was just living in my ego, and then I lost my job, and then I got a divorce, and then I went through 6 months of depression, and I had to refine myself, and that's when I went through my ego death, and now I'm so much better now. And it's just kind of interesting to hear like what people are trying to, encapsulate from a secular or like a new age point of view. But as Christians, how it's like, no, that's really us like dying to our flesh. But it's just interesting to think of like, what are we replacing that I with as well? It's not just a demonization of our own pride or ego, but it's putting Jesus there, on the throne of our life, or else something else will just kind of take that place, I don't even know where that came from. I just heard somebody say that on a podcast the other day, but it's interesting though, because I think for many of us, we even demonize suffering as Christians. We look at it and go, I don't want to suffer. I don't want to experience hardships in life. But like, there's so many passages in scripture that say, don't run away from the suffering, like embrace it, even like see it as joy when you go through trials. And I think a big part of it is because it is helping us be refined and taking what is fleshly in us still that maybe we don't even know is there, and it's burning it up, it's refining it. And Jesus is going, okay, can you rely on me in that area? Can you put your identity in me in that area? Did you see how you're relying on your own strength here, And that's like the process of continually just becoming more like Christ. But it's hard to do that just kind of crossing your legs and being like, I want to be more like Jesus. It's like usually the trials of life that expose those things that are not like him, that we realize, that's there and that's got to go.
Yeah. And to be aware of like self-brought on suffering versus like righteous suffering. Cause I think a lot of modern, like especially Western Christians, they'll do things that enact suffering and then think of, well, I'm suffering for the Lord. It's like, no, you're suffering because you're a jerk. Like your behavior was like super, like Jesus talks about like turning the other cheek if we're slapped.
Sure.
It's like you don't slap someone and then they slap you back, say, I'm suffering for the Lord. So this is for you, Jesus. Is like, no, you brought that on versus like living righteously and then embracing the suffering that comes your way. Mm-hmm. Very different things.
I almost thought you meant it in the sense of like an asceticism type of thing,
where
you're
too.
like beating yourself up and you're like intentionally bringing suffering into your life. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I can't even have a latte because, that money could have been given to a poor person or something, whatever.
Yeah. That's like self-consuming, like that you just be.
Right. And there's like every single pleasure you just like derive of yourself or deprive yourself of and just go, I guess, I don't really need a house. I could live in a cardboard box if I really have to. Mm-hmm. Then before you know it, you're like the person that you were taking care of.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, is that it, Kurt?
I think it's it.
Or do you want to land the plane or should I?
You go ahead.
I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in today and listening to this conversation. I hope it was helpful for you. And don't forget to hit the like button, hit the bell button, and then comment, I love Jesus. Subscribe, and then comment, I love Jesus. And then, of course, let's make sure we're pursuing his face. And as we do that, we're taking the I out of the equation. So drop it there.